This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to continue on with the theme of doing and getting shit done, the theme of action, massive action, as Mr. Tony Robbins would say. But I'm here today to tell you a bit more about why you need to own your shit. Now, I'm not talking excrement, although that's probably a good place to start. I'm talking literally owning all parts of you. I talk a lot about integrating the dark parts of yourself and going deep into your own psyche and paying attention to the small, the quiet voice. I do all that sort of stuff, but this goes a bit deeper than that today. Maybe it goes wider. It goes down a different channel rather than deeper than the same channel. One of the things I realized now, I want to share with you, what are we in, 2018? It would have been 3.5 years ago, and I was in an extremely bad place. My business was failing and almost had failed. I haven't talked about this, but I'd actually been in conversations with lawyers about having to claim bankruptcy due to the situation that I was in at the time, and a lot of that was because I handed my power over and just literally was flogged for it, really. But that's the dotted line that I signed by doing that, and being in that position probably set me on a downward path of not knowing how to deal with my emotions, not knowing how to. I was in above my head. The leases that I had my name next to were more than I could afford. I had to cut my income in half just to save the business, and so that wasn't even my original idea. It was the business partner at the time saying, "Mate, we can't do this anymore." And so you go from earning at the time like $1,000 a week to then $500, and then you can put tax on top of that, and so on and so forth. And so it's a big change, and that actually sent me into a place where I started house sitting 3 years ago, and everyone says how smart that was, but in reality, I couldn't afford rent. It was not that I wanted to house sit; it was that I literally, to be able to pull the business out of it all, and I couldn't fucking pay rent. And I didn't see the sense. I mean, like, I had people working for my business. I could have just got rid of them and worked more hours. But I was in a very depressive place. I fucking hated my life. I would get up before the sun rises, and I'd go to work, and I'd fucking drag my ass around, and I'd train. I would train twice sometimes just so I didn't have to try and deal with reality. And then I'd get home, like, when the sun's, well and truly gone to bed, and I'd just fucking hate my life. And so it took me a long time to really grasp the understanding that no one was coming to save me. That where I got to there was definitely a lot of people's input and poor choices or whatever that got me to where I was, but no one was going to come and save me and pull me out of that, right? No one was going to come and say, "Hey man, look, here's $50,000 and look, just pay back when you're ready because you'll be successful. Someone will find you," and so on. That's if I'm honest, the thoughts in the back of my head was that someone will find me, and then I'll be saved, etc. And it's just not what's going to happen. And the same thing is true in every area for my life. No one was going to start this podcast for me. Right? No one was going to start my YouTube channel. No one was going to start my business for me. Right? No one's just going to come and say, "Hey Dave, I love you for, you don't have to change, you don't have to grow, you don't have to." No. When I realized that rather than looking for the right business partner, rather than looking for the right life partner, rather than looking for the right training partner, what I had to realize was that I had to become the right person or a good man to be a good life partner. I had to become a good man to be a good business partner. I had to become a good, athletic individual, or at least fucking have my heart on the line with my training sessions to be a good training partner, rather than thinking that these other people are somehow going to prop me up and help other people find me or some bullshit. And so really what this story is coming down to is, like, no one is coming to save you. No one. And it really is, if you haven't, there's probably some area in your life, like if you're really honest with yourself, if you really excavate yourself, right? There's probably an area in your life where you're not owning something that you're struggling with, right? And you're projecting the blame onto someone else or something else. Maybe, you can project it onto the market or onto, a business, and that's not a person, but you're still projecting all that. And as long as you keep projecting blame, as long as you keep disowning that, you cannot change. You can't change what you don't own. And so this is the whole idea of that. Yeah, it may not be your fault, but it's your fucking responsibility to be able to put yourself in a position to to claw yourself out of the hole that you are in that area of your life. And this is the same for a whole range of things. And people don't want to hear it about depression and anxiety and all that sort of shit, because there's so many levels to this. Yeah, sure, I get it, right? And I've laid there thinking, like fucking fantasizing about driving a car off a cliff, because wouldn't that be easier, right? And that was a normal thought. And I remember thinking after that, oh, that makes sense. That's justifiable. I was aware that this was like, hang on a sec, this is a dangerous place to be. The thing about this, though, is that it was no one's responsibility to save me. I was a person that had to get up and get out and get into the real world and breathe oxygen and get the fuck out of my room, right? Stop watching porn, stop doing all this other kind of random shit that's like playing video games, stop complaining and scrolling on Facebook, stop doing all that shit. Eat food that grew from the ground. I had a mum. Go out and make sure that I exercise and sweat. And don't worry about what I look like, just give my fucking best. And I realized that I had to fucking save myself. But I had to save myself from myself, right? That was the initial stage of it all. And it wasn't until I started owning all of these mistakes that I was a big part of. I might not have been all of it, but I'm like, what part of this can I own? And that gave me leverage to free myself from that issue. It gave me leverage to learn from that issue so that I knew it didn't have to happen again. The problem is that if I never own it, then I'm a victim to it. And the universe is going to like send me the exact same fucking problem. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then the narrative comes in. Why does this always happen to me? It's like, well, maybe you're fucking attracting it, David Nixon. Maybe that's what's going on. And maybe that's for you as well, And so what we have to do in order to step out of our victimhood is to understand that no one is coming. And that's good. No one's doing your fucking weight session for you, right? No one's doing that. You got to do that. You have to go and do the work, and then you reap the reward. And you know this with every area of your life. You're like, if work's not working, work harder. You want to get paid more? Do more than what you get paid for. Continually give. At least that way you feel good, right? You don't walk around with like catcher's mitts on both hands. When I recognized this fundamental rule, I decided to go to America, and over the last 3 years, I'm not going this year, I don't think. I'd like to go in September, but I don't think I'm going this year. But over the last 3 years, I've spent about 16 weeks in America, and I've trained around 42 different gyms there, I think it was. With the likes of like Tommy Hackenbrook, Chris Duffin, C.T. Fletcher, Bobby Maximus, Chris Spieler, who else? Like Westside Barbell, Elliot Hulse down at the strength camp, Nick Shaw from Renaissance Periodization, Juji Mufu, Chad Wesley Smith, Anthony Pomponio out of Juggernaut. Like, the list goes on and on and on and on. And the thing about, like, going and meeting all these, and they're good guys, like, and the chicks that I met, they're good chicks, and going and meeting these people, it's like they're just people. But for me to go out there and speak and talk to these individuals and why they're successful and what about them is so exciting, and why what do they have that I don't? Like, all of the, like, none of these people were ever gonna fucking come to Canberra to look for Dave Nixon. So if I wasn't going to go out there and build these friendships and build these connections and see the industry on a larger scale, I had to get my fucking ass into gear and go do that. And that's what changed my perspective among everything else. Like, the just the hard truth, and I've said it so many times in this podcast, I'm going to finish with it, that no one is coming for you. It's your job to go after exactly what it is that you want, and make sure, I mean, as long as it's not hurting somebody else directly, right? Like, if they're hurting because they're used to relying on you, that's different. That they have their own problems. But as long as you are not actually hurting or victimizing somebody else, so to speak, then it's your responsibility to all of the generation below us and everyone around us to go after what the fuck it is that you truly want, right? And that's why it's worth listening to Gary Vee's advice and hustle before and after work and do that sort of shit, because you want to make sure that your nephews or your kids that are watching or the kids at the gym that are watching see you put the work in, so we don't breed a generation of lazy little assholes. Anyway, team, I'm out. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you did find this podcast interesting, then I would love it if you share it with a friend who you think would also find it really interesting. I probably shared more of a story there than I had anticipated to, but I hope you got something out of that as well. But team, as always, until next time, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick, and slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unbound.